Yes, welcome back to the No Stay Project. It's been a while since we had a live show here in the fortified compound here in Mesa, Arizona. I am glad to be back with you here. Again, I apologize for not being able to do the show the last few times. I did have family that was unexpectedly put in the hospital. They're much better now, but you know, things were dicey for a while, but we should be able to do the show. We shouldn't have too many more interruptions in the show, hopefully. I want to thank everyone for their continued support of the show. It is appreciated. I really do can say, and and if you'd like to be able to help support the show, you can do so at markstevens.net. Of course, my website, also markstevens.sales.com. It would be in the description, but this beta thing on YouTube is really, really buggy. So every time I would put the call information, if I had more than one line in the description, I couldn't go live. The button to then go live was gone. So, I don't know. But yeah, I do appreciate the support of the show. What a week. You almost lose track of time when you're in the hospital all day. And, I have to say something about the services out there in California. Holy crap. It's bad enough when you've got family in the hospital. That it's always bad. It's, I know I can use classic interface, but that wasn't working either. For some reason, every single time you go below, look, someone try it. You go beyond one line in the description, bang, the go live button is gone. I don't get that. Why? But we're still able to do the show. So hey, it's not that big of a tech issue, not that big of a deal. I'll give the number out here in just a moment. But the family member was supposed to be transported less than half a mile. I mean, I'm going to go on a limb here and say it was as far as a half a mile. I mean, it's right over right down the street past the VA there in Loma Linda. And and they were supposed to pick him up at 5:30. Okay, and I gotta say it, Premier is the name of the company. They are anything but Premier. Oh my gosh. AMR, they got your back. Very good. All the nurses said the same thing. Premier, at the worst, they're late at least 2 hours. I would have been happy. We all would have been happy if it was only 2 hours. They were 8 hours late. Now, when you've got someone in a hospital who's been physically released as far as the drips and the this and the that, and they're no longer technically a legal patient, they would have to readmit them to be an insurance nightmare. So if you're in Southern California and they're going to you're going to be transported with Premier, tell them you just call an Uber instead, because they're going to be there a lot sooner and take care of things. So as long as you don't need a transport bed, you're good, because Premier, you guys suck. These people should lose their contracts all around and be put totally out of business. Anyway, hate stories like this, but it's right in line with the last few shows and a video that I'm going to do about this, because I had some criticism a while back about why you're talking about government, politics and politicians if you're an anarchist. I'm like, because that's the ruling class that we're trying to get rid of. And unfortunately, we got yet another example of why we should not have a ruling class. It's 2019. This is really a subject that we have to talk about all the time. Apparently, yes. Especially people talking, oh, you got Trump deranged syndrome and you just don't like him, or you're a libtard and everything you're just retarded. You got two sides beating their heads against each other. Each side is retarded and deranged. Okay, and they're not looking at the real problem is the friggin' ruling class itself. It is a group of men and women that force us to pay them. The ruling class, having a ruling class, that's the problem. So once again, we got to report one of these stories. This is extremely common. Again, I am going to go and it'll probably wind up being like an hour-long video. This is actually one of the most I shouldn't say comical, but because it involves the death of a teen, a Virginia teen. She was only 19, Sarah Wilson, and I'm pretty certain I've mentioned this on the show before. But once again, it's good to be one of the king's men, because just like clockwork, even though a 19-year-old girl is dead while in police custody, there are so many things wrong with this. She was handcuffed behind her back. She was in a police car. She was in police custody. Now, hopefully I have the time to talk about this today, but because it goes into what somebody asked me to talk about. The courts have all uniformly ruled that there is no duty to protect you, except when you are physically in their custody. So there's no duty to protect us from terrorists, school shooters, stuff like that. There's absolutely no, because we know Scott Peterson in the Parkland, the hero, Scott Peterson, stood outside, a sheriff's deputy, a member of the government, whose job was there to be security. No duty to protect children and government employees. Get that? They're not even there to protect government employees. Here, she was in physical custody. She was in police custody, handcuffed behind her back. Now, I know from and she wound up, even though she was patted down, she not only got her arms in front of her, she found a gun. And she took this gun, even though they're only being arrested on a minor drug charge. Somebody without a history of suicide and depression. She not only magically finds a gun, she gets her hands in front of her as she contorts herself in a way she's able to shoot herself in the mouth. Now, I'm not the best example for this because I do gymnastic type stuff and I'm very bad at stretching. I don't do that enough. So I really am not somebody that you can go by as far as shoulders, shoulder mobility. I'm a little bit lacking in that. But she wound up shooting herself in the mouth. Even though there were witnesses that said the police shot her. There were eyewitnesses. Oh, and get this. There's no report of there being gunshot residue on her hands. Although that could, that would have been obvious. With there powder burns on her mouth? I mean, these are forensics that are supposed to be done, right? You have eyewitnesses that testified or reported that they saw one of the cops shoot her. They ruled it a suicide anyway. It's just like the double tap to the back of the head. Oh yeah, you can, yeah, sure, okay, all right, like the reporter for the Sacramento Bee, Gary. I'll have it in the video later. So, and she was a passenger. I'll just read here from the news. She was a passenger of a car pulled over by the police on July 25, 2018. The 19-year-old's boyfriend, Holden Medlin, 27, was driving when they were stopped by two police officers, one patrol and one from narcotics. Separating the two from the car, one officer handcuffed Wilson while the other struggled to detain Medlin, who was reportedly combative and tried to flee the scene. While officers tried to get control of Medlin, Wilson was left alone and was reportedly able to get a gun, possibly from inside the car where she was a passenger, contorted her body and shot herself through the mouth while still wearing handcuffs. She was handcuffed and she managed to put a revolver in her mouth while handcuffed. Wow. Contortionist? The dead woman's mother, Dawn Wilson, told ABC News, "In all her life, I've never known of her to shoot a gun, own a gun, or even hold a gun." Police were not able to explain how Wilson was able to get access to the gun and said it was not a police weapon. They reportedly tried to save Wilson's life. Yeah, sure. Cleared of all wrongdoing. A woman in their custody, even if we say that they are not the ones who shot them, even though there were witnesses that said that they did. She was in their custody. negligence at the very least. Somebody in your custody kills themselves. Aren't police supposed to pat you down when they put handcuffs on you? Once again, this is because they're the king's men. They are the enforcement men or automatons for the ruling class. They are not there to protect me and you. I actually had a family member that I discussed this with this past week. So the cops aren't here to protect you. It's black. Of course they are. No, they're not. They'll actually tell you that in their own laws. And since I was in California, I quote Salzaverse City of Antioch. Police officers have no statutory duty to do anything. This is just another example of the king's men investigating themselves and finding no wrongdoing. How could it possibly... Look, almost forgot. One of the constants in these, because people think, well, the cops, they've got, body cams. They got body cams, and the body cams mysteriously, the body cams didn't work just for the time she committed suicide. Apparently, this alleged suicide. These body cams are the worst. Yeah, they won't release what body cam footage they do have. This is the mentality that even when somebody who was your personal lawyer for 10 years, an entire decade, testifies under oath that you directed him to commit a crime. Well, totally clears the president. Thank you. Very legal, very cool. This is what you get. This is why you've had cases in Arkansas of a beheading. I'll have to dig that one up. Hopefully that hasn't been shown to be false, but I remember a coroner in Arkansas ruling a beheading where they couldn't find the head, ruled it a suicide. This just keeps happening and happening and happening. Even if the body cam and the dash cams worked and you can see the cop shooting her in the face, they'd still be cleared. They'd still be cleared. And even if they weren't cleared, if they were actually prosecuted, there'd be at least one person on the jury that would refuse to convict the cop. Yes, it is good to be one of the king's men. You can actually be responsible for somebody and be negligent. And if we accept the official story, which is bull, you while they're in your custody, they're able to kill themselves in your custody, and you don't even get charged with negligence. Oh, but we don't have a ruling class. This is we have this happen in every 50 so-called state. It happens all the time. It's a regular thing to hear about people being killed by police, and the police are always cleared. How you cannot even be charged, that's the thing, I know I keep harping on that. But to have somebody in your physical custody that you are responsible now for their safety, you are legally responsible as a police officer for the safety of someone you've arrested. Whatever happens to them that you could and should have prevented, you are liable for, at least under your sacred writ. But are they charged? Nope. Totally clears the cops. Thank you. It was perfectly legal. It was very legal, very cool. So the police, so the family is obviously talking about this. They should be filing a wrongful death claim. But here, if you've got a coroner who's complicit, you'd have to be able to have an independent investigation on the forensics. They had to be able to show that there was gunpowder residue on her hands. If you're handcuffed, how the hell could you... You're cuffed. How the hell do do you get your hands from behind your back, first of all, get a gun, and then turn it around, and you're able to shoot your... It doesn't... This is... How many of us plebes, how many of us, the little people, have to be killed, and then the families and the community have to... Because we were talking about the Stephon Clark not too long ago. I think maybe on the last show. How many of us have to be killed by the king's men before people have had enough? This is the Chesapeake Police Department launched an internal investigation into Wilson's suicide. Could you imagine you being charged that someone is killed and you say, I will investigate myself, and I will be fair. It is beyond the pale. But you know who was charged? Medlin, the boyfriend, the one who wasn't killed by the police, the one who didn't magically suicide himself. He was arrested in connection to the traffic stop after he swallowed a golf ball-sized bag with an unknown substance in it. Police searched the car, found 11 oxycodone and a syringe, drug paraphernalia, a rifle, and several boxes of ammunition, according to court documents. He was charged with possession of oxycodone, possession of Suboxone, possession of paraphernalia, possession of a firearm with a Schedule 1 or 2 drug, fleeing from a law enforcement officer, and being a felon in possession of a firearm. Those charges were certified to a grand jury on Tuesday. I think this was that Tuesday of this week? It's Tuesday of last week. So they're willing to charge you for drugs, but charge the police officer. See, there's you there. That is your double standard that should make everybody with half a brain in their head realize that anarchy is the only rational way for society. That you cannot have a violent ruling class because that's what you have. Again, we're going to say that the official story is mostly correct. She shot herself in the mouth. She was in physical custody of the police, who were then legally responsible for her safety and nothing. But somebody with drugs, lock him up. Lock him up. Absolutely disgraceful. So hopefully the parents, the family is going to seek, and they get a good litigator who's going to go after the insurance and is going to go after, the police officers and the damn coroner. Suicide. Ay vey. My gosh. And one day I'll get to one more thing before we get to the calls to show just how ridiculous this so-called blue wave, and now they're gonna investigate, and they're gonna finally hold the Captain Bone Spur, the Cheeto in chief. They're gonna get him. Speaker of the House not gonna pursue impeachment because he's not worth it, because it would divide the country. Oh yeah. See, when you're part of the ruling class, you can always get away with these things under the old, we don't want to divide the country needs to heal. No, you start the healing process by holding the criminals accountable. Well, if we get arrested, we don't want, look, if you arrest and charge me, you're just going to divide the community. And we need to heal at this point. Not worth it. You'd like to think that this was old Nancy trying to play one over on the narcissist in chief. I don't think she's that shrewd. Cops are domestic terrorists. Well, cops are the enforcement arm of the domestic terrorists called government. Terrorism is the use of force and threats of force to bring about political change. Well, that's government in a nutshell. You give us this money so that we can pass these laws and protect you, or we hurt you. It's that simple. Criminal organization from beginning to end. It is just, so yeah, I hear, again, unfortunately, I took probably a lot of time on that. But I'll have a lot of graphics in the video tomorrow. This is why. This is what comes with a ruling class. Well, in addition to the widespread, child trafficking, the wars, killing busloads of children so that your bottom line goes up. Yeah. So all you people who own stock in McDonnell Douglas, you own stock in Raytheon, in some of these other, the Carlyle Group, the ones who are profiting off of all the death and destruction in the Middle East, Abba Fungul. All people care about nowadays, it seems, is money. Money. Talk to an ANCAP. It's all about money with these people. Every problem that someone may have, it's your fault because you didn't earn enough money. You're just bad with your money. You're just bad. You just didn't manage your money well. People who manage money well don't have money problems. See, it's a nice, easy, black and white world that ANCAPs seem to live in. Not all. Unfortunately, it's the vocal few, the vocal ones. But it's a common thread. It's all about money. And if you've got a lot of money, you're making the right choices. Oh, here's the thing. You could bring about a voluntary society by just making a lot of money and not doing anything. That's a strategy. My thing is like Dr. Phil. How's that working out for you? All right, I got to get to the callers. But if there's anyone who thinks that we should have a ruling class, and if you have evidence that what we have, what we call government, these men and women that force us to give the money, if you have evidence to show that it is, and to support an argument that it's a legitimate organization, not criminal, if you can make an ethical argument for it, by all means. And I don't want to hear any of this crap. Well, no philosopher has ever been able to show an objective basis for the ethics, so you can't argue ethics. We're talking about a group of men and women who claim to be a moral authority, so we can use their rules at this, okay? So I don't want to hear any of that crap. I want a logically consistent, fact-based argument that counters mine that what we call government is nothing more than men and women forcing us to pay, and that they're a criminal organization. So let's get to the phones. We have Alicia in Atlanta. Alicia.
Hey, Mark, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you today?
I'm all right. I'm not on your topic at all. I was calling about James, actually.
Okay, that's if you're calling about anarchy, government abuse, or defending yourself in court, then we're open for business.
Okay. So I have talked to you about it before. James is in custody now on failure to appear charges. He has been there since September. And I had a habeas hearing. Well, I was supposed to have a habeas hearing on the 12th of March. And they forgot to put it on the docket. And so then they said they would hear it anyway. And then the judge came in and said that the sheriff had not been served. So it was not heard. However, since then, they added a motions court date to James, and they brought him in yesterday. And instead of hearing any motions that he had out, or he has filed several motions, they haven't heard anything for months. But now they're saying that they are going to send him to a psych hospital for 90 days.
Hasn't he already been cleared on that months ago, or has there been another incident?
No, they ordered the. I guess she just returned the report or whatever the psychologist did, and somehow that is what she recommended, I guess.
What's the basis for it this time?
He has not seen. He didn't get the report. Like, he hasn't seen the report. He didn't even hear back from the psychologist after she did the evaluation. We just noticed that they didn't send any notifications of the motions of the court date either. I just happened to be looking on the records thing online and saw that it was there. So then we're thinking, well, maybe because he has a petition, or he has a mandamus petition, also a motion to quash, and a request for bond, all that are just there that have been filed and not heard. So when they called him, he thought they were going to hear his motions, and instead they said that she had turned in her report, and that they were recommending, or she was recommending, that he go to a mental hospital for 90 days.
But he wasn't able to communicate to you why, or she didn't give any specific reasons why? I mean, I know what it was the last time, but that was months ago.
Yeah, I mean, it's just been the same thing. He's been sitting in there. Nothing has changed. They haven't even called him into court, because once they ordered the evaluation, they don't do anything until it's complete. Like, so nothing happens with your case until it's complete, or it's not supposed to.
So he's been in since September, and how long has the habeas corpus been pending?
It was, I am trying to think when it was filed. It was filed February 21st. But we've been trying to file a habeas for months, and it's always been something procedure that has been denied. So, we got.
So now, I'd have to look into this. I always thought that the court took care of sending a copy of the habeas corpus petition to the sheriff. But I guess what we have to do from now on is, regardless of that, we have to get a copy, and we have to take copies of everything. And we're just going to have a process server serve it on the sheriff from now on, so that we don't get these things, because there's nothing else you can do. All you can do, if they pull some crap with that, you can't say you've exhausted state remedies and then go into the federal court, which is extremely difficult to maintain a habeas corpus in federal court against the state.
Mm-hmm.
So has the sheriff now been formally served?
Yes. As soon as I left the hearing that day, I went and because I paid the thing for the sheriff's, or for for them to serve. I paid that before, when I filed one of the other petitions I filed, but then, because that petition was denied, it was something procedure. But, so I paid for it then, and then when I turned in the one that the hearing was scheduled on the 12th, I did the service the way that the people in the sheriff's department told me to do, which apparently is just a flat out lie, because apparently they just didn't want to sign for it. So they just told me that I had to do it a different way. But yes, once I left the hearing on the 12th, I went straight there and paid to have that done.
And who did you pay to have it done by?
The clerk's office.
Now,
I mean, you pay the form, you turn in the form to them, and then the sheriff's department comes and picks it up and takes it.
Well, yeah, like it happened last time. Well, I would keep the sheriff's department out of the service from everyone. That's what I'm saying from now on. Keep the sheriff's office out of service, especially since they're a party to the action. I don't, they could always argue, that, hey, we can't serve ourselves. They'll take your money, but I think it's best that when we're doing a habeas corpus, that petition, that we not involve the sheriff or the clerk. Give me my freaking paperwork so I can have it served myself, and they have to come up with another excuse. Now there's no public defender involved with this, right?
There has been a public defender, but James has told him he doesn't want his assistant several times, and so he's not on his case. When he went to the hearing on, it was Monday. It was Monday. It was yesterday. It was Tuesday, yesterday. When he went to the hearing, they had another attorney there that he had used in a previous case. And I'm not sure why he was even there. And he didn't know either, because he hadn't talked to him previously. But the judge said that he asked him to be there so that he could talk to him if he needed to talk to someone.
Well, maybe you can talk to them and see if you can find out what the hell the basis of the psych eval is. Because this is, I mean, I'm not going to, it's personal. So we know something happened last year, but, that's not an issue.
Mm-hmm.
And he's already done, I think he already had a psych evaluation for that. So as long as things didn't reoccur, there's no reasonable basis for it.
Right. Well, I mean, and also it wasn't on the motions hearing, all of that. None of that was on the calendar until after the court date, like the day that I went to the hearing on the 12th. The motions hearing for James had still not been scheduled, and then like a couple of days after that, it had been scheduled. So we thought maybe he, read the habeas and was trying to not let it be heard or whatever. But I don't know.
But he hasn't had on any of his motions. He has had no hearings on any of the motions he's filed. We know about the habeas because they made an excuse about that. But none of his other motions to dismiss, let's say, nothing of that. He's never had a hearing. He's actually been in jail since September, and he hasn't had any kind of pre-motion hearing, a pre-trial hearing.
And when they arrested him in September, they didn't bring him back out to see the judge at all until it was November 1st. And on November 1st, it was a Thursday, and they said, "Hey, you're going to trial on Monday." So that's when the whole evaluation was ordered, right before the trial. That's when all that happened. And so that was November 1st, and he has not even gone to the courthouse since then until yesterday.
I wish there was some remedy that I could say, but I don't have anything because they got him good. The only other thing you could do is you could file a habeas corpus. You could file a habeas corpus because on his behalf, and then have a process server serve it, because anybody can file a habeas corpus. They may not allow it, but you still can file it and get it served. Maybe but they don't have to hear it, so I don't have a concrete remedy. I would say that the Congress 20 years ago has foreclosed on basically on using habeas corpus against state charges. It's extremely narrow, extremely difficult to get a habeas for state charges in federal court. It's extremely narrow, and I'll have to put that in the video. That was one of the topics of the second season of that documentary, to Make a Murderer, was how difficult it is, and they talk about that a lot. It was how difficult and how high the bar is for a federal habeas corpus against state charges. It's almost non-existent, from what I've seen. So the only thing I could, other than you doing the habeas, is talking to the attorneys, find out why in the hell the judge is issuing this, because that's something that should be in a habeas if you do a habeas corpus. So so if you're not aware of any triggering episode to justify another psych evaluation, then that's something that should be in the habeas corpus, because they're using that as another excuse to incarcerate him for another 90 days. I mean, you're talking about the underlying charges. At this rate, they're going to blow past any kind of speedy trial limitation.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm
okay. So go ahead.
No, I'm just saying I don't have anything else to really offer. They've got him pretty good. They got him good. If they're going to keep finding excuses not to hear a habeas corpus, there's really not too much else we can do. I mean, it's not like you can get a city councilman. In fact, maybe someone can even speak to the prosecutor and see, but I don't even see what that could do, other than finding maybe they'll release some information to you or an attorney as to why the judge is doing what they're doing.
Right.
There's probably nothing in the record.
So I came across an article about this same judge, and there are many articles about this same judge actually, and many appeals and cases about, him just flat out lying.
What's his name?
His name is Retain Kell, Kell. And there was a case that I read about where he ordered a man to have a psychological evaluation, and then he held him, and he ended up being in there. He spent several years in custody anyway, and then in the end, it was Judge Kell had something happened with the case where he put some information in that ended up sending this guy to jail for like years after these psychological evaluations, and the man didn't do anything. And there's just no. But it was the same sort of case, and I don't know if I can use. I mean, because there have been cases before, is that something that I can use?
I don't know. It's not too much. We need to get him out, and you have to look at the remedies that are available that you can use that information. So if the judge has such a history, you still have to have a remedy to use that information. You might have something like, there may be remedy as far as a motion to change the judge, but they can just deny that. Now, again, like I've mentioned, that opens the door for a petition for writ of mandamus into the higher court, where you could potentially get a stay of proceedings at the trial court. So that is something, but he has to be able to, you would need to be able to get that motion to disqualify the judge to him, and you're probably not going to be able to do that unless there's a public defender or somebody that's willing to get it to him. And then if there's a public defender, they have to sign it. So this is one of the biggest problems with this so-called justice system, is how they lock people out. And how judges can do literally anything they want to people and with no accountability. And please, people, spare me this crap that judges can be accountable. I'm talking in practical terms. None of the plebes, unless you are a billionaire, none of us are going to hold a judge like this piece of garbage, Kell. None of his victims, none of us are going to hold these judges accountable. They have absolute immunity. But if there's legally, they don't have immunity if they never had this jurisdiction. But good luck trying to get a fellow judge to back you, to go, to allow you to go forth with that. It's just, it doesn't happen. I wish, you're going to have to, I'm happy to help with the motion to disqualify the judge, especially if we have other information to show what a real piece of garbage he is. But we have to work on something to be able to get it in front of him so he can, to James, so that he can have sign it and have it filed, which I don't know if we're able to do that. Did I lose? Oh, I'm sorry. There was some background noise, so I had to mute you up, but I forgot to unmute you when I shut up. We still got Alicia?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah, this see if there's not too much. Wow, I hate situations like this. Demonstrates why we shouldn't have a ruling class. Why these judges shouldn't have immunity. I guess we're gonna have to. We'll have to talk, get together off air and see about putting together a motion to disqualify the judge. It would, again, I know that it would probably be denied, but that would be fine as long as we can then maintain a petition for a writ of mandamus into the higher court. All this still requires us to get him. He has to be able to sign all this stuff. So if you're able to do that, great. If not, then we're stuck.
Right. Yeah. Because you helped with the Davis before, and we filed it, and they in the appellate court, and they denied it because they said we had to go to the superior court first. So we did that. So it's been filed, but that's something that they haven't heard it. They're not hearing anything, and they're saying it's because they're waiting on the psychological evaluation. They won't hear anything until that's been completed.
Wait, was that what was the purpose of the mandamus again? I'm sorry, I don't, especially after this past week being in the hospital every day for 14 hours. What was the mandamus? Because we had already filed a motion to change the judge?
He denied the motion to disqualify.
Okay, all right, but that's the thing. The petition for the writ of mandamus should have nothing to do, them moving on that should have nothing to do with the judge ordering us. Well, did we file it with a motion to stay the trial court proceedings? Pretty certain we would have done that.
Yes.
And they denied it. So I'm sorry for wasting some time. Our hands are pretty much tied at this point. They are shutting him down, and we're pretty much out of remedy, other than you doing a habeas corpus, which they don't have to move on that either. But it would be worth doing because they shouldn't be charging you for that. It's just you're going to have to pay for service.
Yeah, well, that's the one that I paid for service for, that one on the 12th, and so now I just have to So should I go back then and do a process server on my own as well?
It takes an excuse away from them. It just covers your base. There's no legal justification to not respond to a suit because you were served twice. It's
right.
It's redundant. It's money that you shouldn't have to spend, but at least it covers you in case they pull this crap again. Latane Kell Sr., Cobb County scumbag judge, appointed by Governor Sonny Perdue in 2007. What a piece of garbage. Well, all right. We'll get with me off air we'll continue this off air because
thank you, Mark.
I appreciate the call. I wish there was more I could do right now.
I appreciate it, Mark. Thank you.
All right, we'll talk soon. Yeah, those. That's right. I can't remember all the details of everything after so long, but yeah, that's what do you do when you're in a situation like that? Your hands are virtually tied. That's why it really is quite something to the testament of how peaceful most of us are, where there aren't more cul-dragas, where they pull this kind of crap, they refuse to give you any kind of remedy. I'm not advocating that people go cul-draga. I'm just saying it's a testament, again, to how peaceful we really are and how violent that they are. All right, we can get another call in before the end of the show. We got area code 209. You're live on the No State Project. What's your name? Where you calling from?
This is Donna from California.
Oh, Donna from California. Welcome to the show. What can I do for you today?
Oh, my problem is that ticket that I got. And it was a retaliation ticket from a cop. And she initially pulled me over for speeding, but I recorded it. She went back to her car, and she said she had a body cam on. She turned off the body cam to talk to another officer before she turned it back on. And I requested that through the California Public Records Act in its entirety, but the cop had turned it off after she screwed up and got busted that I recorded my GPS, and decided to come back after she had a discussion with another cop to come back and say that she was going to get me for unsafe lane change and not using my signals. And I wanted the recording in the entirety to hear what they talked about after she left my window. And then I talked to the chief of police today, and he admitted that nobody has any bond of any sort.
Well, that's true.
I got that on recording.
But that's true. That's true. In California, they're not bonded, but the cities and counties do carry self-insurance. So that's why I talk about going to risk management. But the individual officers and actors, employees, are not individually bonded. It hasn't been like that for at least 30 years.
So no cops are bonded?
No cops are bonded.
But the city has a house bond.
The city has self-insurance. So if it's a city or county, they still self-insure. Unlike Arizona, they do not self-insure at the state level. At the state level, you have to if you if you win against them, then the legislature has. It used to be this way, okay. Hopefully, it still is. So I'm not completely certain on this because it's been a long time. But they have to pass an appropriation bill or put in an appropriation bill to cover a loss that was that you recover in court, or that you get in court. So if you get a judgment against the state of California, there has to be an appropriation bill by the legislature to pay you. Now, again, if that's not the way it works anymore, if I'm not accurate on that, but anyway, we're talking about city. Are you talking about a city cop right now?
Yes.
Okay, so
in a small town here in Jackson, California.
Jackson. So okay, so here that's not the legislature thing is not even an issue anyway. But I'll look that up and post what the actual procedure is in the video tomorrow. So yeah, you can look up and you can look up the city Jackson Risk Management, and you'll see that they have an insurance, self-insurance that covers all the employees for damages while on the job. So they gave you these tickets, and have you been to an arraignment yet?
No.
Okay, well, you can still file for the demur, and you can file the discovery request. In the discovery request, you can put in there that you want all the dash cam and body cam footage of the stop.
Yeah, but the chief said that the portion that I wanted to listen to is the cop had turned off her body cam.
Is that a violation of policy?
Well, I'm not sure in this case because if you could see it, a cop pulling somebody over, telling them they were speeding, even though it was retaliation for something else, it had nothing to do with the stop, for standing up for homeless folks that were being accosted by this particular cop. And if you could imagine the cop saying, I'm speeding, and then she looks down and sees my GPS and I recorded the whole trip, and then she turns off her body cam, tells another officer to come back to the back of the car, and she turns off her body cam to talk to him and say, I can't get her for speeding because she recorded GPS. What do I do? That's the thing that I wanted to have a copy of, is their discussion of when she screwed up.
If they both turned off their body cams, you're not going to get it. The only thing I could see is that you have a breach of police policy or city policy that they're not supposed to do that. They're not going to be held accountable, but you could use it against them, and possibly if you're going to go for a suit for some minor damages over this. As far as, have you filed a demur at this point?
I don't know what that is.
A demur is basically a motion to dismiss. So when you demur, you're not going to even speak to the merits. You're demurring. It's from the French. And what you're doing is you're attacking the factual sufficiency of the complaint, that there aren't sufficient facts to set forth an actual public offense. And because they're assuming that the laws apply and then accusing you of violating them. And it's that assumption that is the fatal flaw in there, because the assumption is not a fact, no matter how much they want it to be. And so because there isn't sufficient facts there, then they are just assuming you violated the code because they can't prove it applies in the first place. So that's what the demur does. It says that there's not sufficient facts here because you're only assuming the most important part. There can't be a violation of a code that doesn't apply. And they'll scream from the rooftop that it does. The cops will shoot you dead because they believe it does, but that's not evidence. That's not proof. And no, just putting other people in prison does not, or putting homeless people in prison, in jail, does not prove that the code applies to you. I'm sorry to hear that you had a retaliation, but cops are very, very petty, immature individuals, and it's good that you had your own record of that, so you can prove that this is a false arrest. And the cop lied. The cop is committing felonies. on against you. So it might actually be something where if you're looking for some kind of report, some kind of suit for damages against their insurance, that you want to get this cop on the stand and you want to question him and you want him to lie on the stand so that you can bring out that he's committing perjury. Again, not a damn thing is going to happen to the cop because he commits perjury on the stand. Cops do it every day. Prosecutors and lawyers don't give a damn. They let it happen.
So how do you go about doing the demur?
Well, I have a template available at my website, markstevens.net, and also at markstevens.sales.com, and it comes with instructions, and I'm here twice a week, most weeks, but I'm also, to help out with that, to help you through the process. And like tomorrow, at the same time as this show broadcast, 4 to 5 Mountain, or 4 to 5 or 3 to 4 your time, we do have role-playing sessions that you contact me at Skype at FrankRizzo3, and we do that. Then we take you. Then we give you the link for Discord, and we do the role-playing there to help you through the process. You want to put a few more things into your discovery request in Brady because of what they did, and I would call down or speak to a lawyer or a cop that you trust, somebody, and ask them, is it against department policy for cops during an active traffic stop, a detention, to turn off the body cam? And I got to tell you, I don't know for sure here. I'm going to err on the side of caution and say that it is not within their policy to turn that off during an active investigation and detention. I'm going to have to go ahead and say no, that the cop violated police policy.
Okay. When did you say you're on Skype?
We do this. We do the role playing tomorrow from 3 to 4 Pacific time. And you contact me at Skype at FrankRizzo3. But what you can do is, because I'm pretty much out of time for the show, get with me off air and I'll give you all the information, or you can go to markstevens.net. All the information, the contact information is right there on the right-hand side.
Okay. What I was told to do was walk in and appear and then ask the judge if the appearance is on the record.
Whoa.
And then to ask the judge to tell the clerk to give me a receipt for showing up.
I don't know.
Making an appearance.
I don't know who's telling you this, but I'm glad you brought it up before you did it, because it doesn't make any sense. So I'll explain.
The only thing I promised was to appear, right?
Well, the promise to appear is done on a threat, duress, and coercion. If you didn't sign a promise to appear, wouldn't you have been taken to jail immediately?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how about Fongul to their promise? It was, they extorted that out of you. They threatened you. So it's not something that you did in, you freely agreed to do that. But I'll discuss appearance in just a moment. But I got to let you go. But so you just listen to the rest of the show, and it'll be available, of course, at my website, and it's always here on YouTube. But I will have the good video and audio up tomorrow, and have more citations and whatnot. So I appreciate
cool.
Yeah.
I just need to know what to do when I walk in, step by step.
Okay, well, I'll keep you on for this, but just hold on. The thing is, and when you look at my demur, my motions to dismiss, whenever we file a motion, we don't use the word appear as that we're appearing. What we're actually doing, what more accurately reflects reality, is that we're participating under threat, duress, and coercion. Because if you don't show up, you're going to get a failure to appear charge, and they will arrest you. They will issue a warrant for your arrest. So your participation is mandatory. It's compulsory. An appearance is a technical word of art that lawyers use. It has a different meaning in court, as opposed to right now on the radio. Appear means to submit yourself to the jurisdiction of the court. Now, by filing a demur, you are not appearing. You are demurring. And all you're doing there is you're participating in an effort to show the judge that the prosecution doesn't have sufficient facts, that there's no evidence of, insufficient evidence of jurisdiction, personal and subject matter, and you just want the judge to throw the whole damn thing out on those grounds. So and the idea that you can say that you're appearing for the record and that you can charge them, this is smacking of sovereign type stuff, of freemen on the land, and I'll tell you that kind of stuff is completely lacking in merit and is just as ineffective going into court. What I suggest doing is, the system is based on logic, in that, at least mostly, in that the prosecution bears the burden of proof, and that it's an adversarial proceeding, and I believe it's more effective to hold the prosecution to their burden of proof. The judge is supposed to be a fair, impartial, independent decision maker who is just supposed to see and determine if the prosecution's met their burden. If he's satisfied that they met their burden, then they can proceed because they've established subject matter jurisdiction and personal jurisdiction. But it is a lot to discuss as far as court. So if you have more questions, we can discuss that tomorrow. And you can also call the Saturday show, because the Saturday show is a lot longer. All right?
Okay.
Right. Appreciate the call. Contact me off air at frankrizzo3 and or email me, and you can get the templates at markstevens.net. Pretty much out of time. I appreciate everyone tuning in today. I appreciate the support of the show, you guys, Chris and Mark and Nelson, and I'm missing a name off. I'll write them down. I'll have them for the Saturday show. If you do want to help support the show, you can at markstevens.cells.com or markstevens.net. When we go in and we're defending ourselves against these people, we don't want to just take what someone. This goes for me too. You don't just take what is said as face value. We have to be. People should look at me like, until I can verify, unless I verify, and you independently verify what I'm saying, take every single thing that I'm saying as not true. Be a skeptic. Mark, you got it. You just, it's no offense. I do it all the time to people. I may not necessarily say it, but that's what I'm thinking. This is BS until it's proven otherwise. And when we go into court, taking things from the internet or a radio show and just doing it without actually analyzing it and looking at whether it has merit or not, man, you're going against psychos, people who have massive egos and very, very poor coping skills, which is why we've got James again being threatened with having a psych evaluation, and they won't hear the habeas, or they won't even address his petition for writ of mandamus in a different court. We have to do this from a basic basis of logic and reason. If what I say doesn't make logical sense after you've asked me questions or you've asked questions and you've investigated what I've said, then call me on it, or whoever it happens to be that you're listening to. The idea that you go into court and say you're appearing? No. Appearing, just like there are technical words in court. Every field has them. There are words that you'll use in biology that have different meanings, I'm sure, in a lay setting, or have no meaning in a lay setting. But particularly in court, person, it doesn't follow basic English grammar. Person is singular and the plural. A person can be Scott Bales of the Supreme Court. It could be the Supreme Court. It could be the entire city of Mesa. So you have to, investigate, critical thinking, that everything that this guy, this cop, everything this judge and prosecutor, every single thing that they're saying is a lie until they can verify it. And that's why we object and we call them on it. Every single thing coming out of their mouth is a lie. Well, Mark, the laws don't have to be proven to exist. They just have to. No one's arguing that. Or the idea that evidence is not needed to prove that the laws apply. Really? Really? So you can? I don't accept that. No. It's a lie. Because if they can make a legal argument against us and not have to prove it, then fairness dictates we get to do that to them. Okay? And do we? Or do we even want to? No. We don't. Of course not. Because as anarchists, we are honest. Do things by logic and reason, not double standards, not violence, not threats of violence. I'm over time. I'm glad to be back here live on the No State Project. Again, thanks for the support. markstevens.cells.com. If you disagree with what I presented here on the show, let me know. And some of the things, I think as far as procedure, you know, like with California in settling a claim for damages, I might be wrong on that. But I'll look into it, and whatever the process is, I will post in the video. But hey, again, we'll be live Saturday for all 3 hours. The role-playing is tomorrow, so till then, salud.